Hello, I'm State Representative Bruce Dammeier from the 25th District. Thank you for joining me from our state capitol today. I'd like to begin by thanking those of you who participated in my recent telephone town hall meeting. Despite some technical difficulties, we had 2,400 people who joined in at some point during the hour. The feedback I received from folks was great, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer your questions. The overarching messages I received were focus on job creation, continue to move forward with education reform, and balance the budget responsibly without raising taxes. And I agree on all accounts. We are now in the last week of the legislative session. In the days remaining, lawmakers will work out the details on several bills, including the state operating, capital, and transportation budgets. The operating budget is the big budget that we hear about in the news most frequently. The House has passed one version off its floor. The Senate's version hasn't moved out yet, so there's still a lot of work to be done reconciling them. As fans of Westerns, I'd like to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly of the operating budget that passed the House. First, the good. The House budget would leave a relatively strong ending fund balance of $791 million in reserves. While I prefer more, this is still a strong position, and the ending fund balance is important to ensure we can weather the economic storms that may lie ahead and any potential court challenges. Secondly, the House budget would have no reductions to levy equalization funding for our schools. Levy equalization involves payments from the state to school districts that have much less capacity to raise funds through local levies. This is how our state ensures equity of education for all of our students, regardless of where they live. Now, these are two good aspects. Now let's move on to the bad. The House budget would rely on $421 million in fund transfers. This over-reliance on one-time monies, including accounts dedicated for a specific purpose, to pay for ongoing programs is not a responsible way to budget. Secondly, the House budget would make deep cuts to education. Despite being our state's constitutional paramount duty, as well as the key to our economic future, $1.3 billion of the $4.4 billion proposed reductions would come from our K-12 schools. This is unacceptable. So I've talked about the good and the bad. Now we'll turn to the ugly. The House budget would compromise public safety. It would release nearly 1,300 criminal offenders, mostly felons, up to 4 months early. I'm continually astounded when the state responds to difficult budget situations by releasing criminals from prison early. It's the wrong approach. Secondly, the House budget contains controversial policy bills that failed to advance in the regular legislative session. For example, a bill that would continue the taxes raised to finance Safeco Field that were set to expire by the end of this year. This is bad policy to tuck that type of a bill inside the budget. And finally, the House budget contains a controversial proposal that would lease our state's liquor distribution system to a private vendor. While it could net $300 million in one-time monies, it could be a bad long-term investment for our state. Not only is this plan risky, the process has lacked transparency and created a lot of unanswered questions. So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly of the operating budget that passed out of the House. I joined my House Republican colleagues in writing an alternative budget solution that would spend less, save more, and prioritize education, public safety, and the safety nets for those who cannot care for themselves. Our approach would lead to budget sustainability and I believe set the stage for a future economic prosperity. I encourage you to compare the two approaches and contact me if you have any questions. In closing, on April 13th, the House of Representatives took the time to acknowledge the contributions the United States Navy has made to our region. As a U.S. Naval Academy graduate and having served in the United States Navy for 8 years, this is a particularly special day for me. The Navy has a special place in our state's history and continues to do important things for our communities today. I'm so grateful for the men and women of all our armed services for what they do at home and abroad. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. I'm State Representative Bruce Dammeier. Take care.